having a partner as part of your organizational construct becomes a risk mitigation strategy, a business continuity strategy, along with your talent, the ability to have access to talent that you would otherwise not have. And the second or third biggest advantage with having a partner is the partner potentially comes with expertise from doing similar engagements for their other clients. So they bring best practices, they bring frameworks and things like that. And that gives you way better access to talent and expertise than trying to hire people, right? So it's progress over perfection. So we need to make sure that you are able to create a good partner ecosystem with a strong internal team and then commingle the teams together so they don't feel like two separate cultures are building. That's worked over and over again, especially for growth stage mid-market companies that has specifically worked well. And then you can scale up, scale down, and manage your capacity to your business needs.
Fractional is for world-class consultants in AI, software engineering, product, and design. In this episode, we talk to Anand. Anand Krishnan is the founder and managing partner of Thinkbridge, a digital technology and business consulting firm that specializes in helping clients build and deploy tech-forward business strategies that drive outsized value creation. He's also the co-founder of Sensorscall, a senior care platform that helps seniors age in place. He was a former chief technology officer of IBM and is one of the leading hives on Swarm. Anand helps growth stage companies scale and increase their enterprise value through the meaningful use of technology. In this episode, we talk about designing a hybrid organization for CTOs and external software engineering partners, using a transparent and outcome-first business model, inconsequential versus meaningful technology, and finding your impact as a veteran consultant. This is Alexis, your co-founder from Swarm. Thanks for listening.
And welcome to Fractional.
Thank you.
You're a former CTO of IBM. Now you're managing partner and founder of Thinkbridge. Tell us a little bit more about your journey.
In general, so I started working with computers back in, when I was in 8th grade. So one summer, my dad brings home a floppy disk, and during those days, we didn't know what it was. And he said, spend your summer figuring out how to read stuff out of it. So I spent my entire summer trying to figure out where to stick that floppy drive because I didn't have a computer. So that's sort of how I got started with technology, computers, and then I started building applications with whatever I could for my dad's factory. And then went to school, was not smart enough to get into a computer science program, so got into a mechanical engineering program.
That sounds like this idea, actually.
So, and then I worked, still continue to keep in touch with computers. My final engineering project was a nesting algorithm for one of the factories. So all of that kind of fell into place. And after school, joined IBM, did my usual thing with IBM as a senior consultant, grew into the role. I used to work with several Fortune 500 clients, implementing technology, a lot of SAP implementations, architecture, solution design, and then went into the CIO's office at IBM as the chief architect while they were transitioning from their legacy systems into the newer platforms and things like that. So a lot of complexity in the overall stack, learned quite a bit. And then when my co-founder approached me, my co-founder and I went to school together, and he grew up in the startup space. I grew up, mostly in the corporate space. And then at one point we had 2 or 3 of our now clients reaching out to us, asking us for some advice for their mid-market companies. And as part of that, Sai and I just decided that we can't do both at the same time. So we quit our day jobs and we started Thinkbridge. So that's how I ended up at Thinkbridge. We're 10 years old now. We just turned 10 years earlier in February of this year. It's been interesting. So we specifically built the company around bringing transformation capabilities to mid-market companies because we found a big, massive gap in the market. There are no Accentures for the mid-market. There are no IBMs for the mid-market. And because of, the startup background of my co-founder and my background, we thought we built capabilities, frameworks, and accelerators that could bring similar transformational capabilities to mid-market. And we've rinsed and repeat that over the last 10 years, and happy to report that several of our clients are still with us, and they've seen significant valuation gains, and that became our playbook for all of our mid-market clients.
A lot of the growth startups or the mid-market folks, they have CTOs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have to design their internal teams such that they could work with mid-market consultancies for mid-market
Right.
companies like you. So how exactly should they strategize when, architecting their org design?
Right. So this is a question or challenge everybody has, right? So if you go to a typical growth stage founder who's gone through the initial startup phase, raised a good, one or two rounds, now they are advised by their board or their investors that they now need to, get a CTO, or, some companies at early stage, if they're a technology company, they end up getting a technical co-founder. And what happens as the company grows is, along with growing the team itself, everybody uses the traditional, let me hire and bring people in-house so I have better control over their time and manage the output. And, there's lots of other things that confuse every co-founder, which is about IP and things like that. And what happens is they cannot grow the team as fast as they could or can. And then during that process, there's tremendous pressure to scale the company, grow it faster than, fairly unreasonable time periods. At the same time, we end up in situations where people don't know how to solve for it. So their normal go to strategies, let me go put a position, let me go hire somebody. And then while they're hiring somebody, there's turmoil on the internal team typically. And I've seen this pattern over and over and over again. Either the internal team members leave, or the CTO leaves, or there's some shakeup at the CEO level, and things just start, you take 5 steps forward and 7 steps back problem, right? So when I go, when they reach out to me and ask how should they structure it, I usually tell them that have a good hybrid model where you have a strong internal team and you have a strong external team and a partner that you can depend on. It can be 1, 2, 3 partners, but you have to build a capability where you can have the ability to grow your team flexibly. Technology changes, so if you do everything in-house, you're inheriting a lot of overhead. The one big thing that I tell everyone is, when you hire somebody in-house, yes, you're retaining knowledge in-house, but that knowledge can vanish in just a day if they quit and leave. There's nothing tying them to the company. But when you have a partner, you have a formal contract that holds them accountable to actually fulfill the contractual obligations. Because of that, having a partner as part of your organizational construct becomes a risk mitigation strategy, a business continuity strategy, along with your talent, the ability to have access to talent that you would otherwise not have, right? And the second or third biggest advantage with having a partner is the partner potentially comes with expertise from doing similar engagements for their other clients. So they bring best practices, they bring frameworks and things like that. And that gives you way better access to talent and expertise than trying to hire people, right? I've been hiring people for 30 plus years. I still make mistakes hiring people, right? Because there are people who interview really well, but are not a fit for your organization, or they don't interview well and they end up not coming into the organization, so you lose out on talent. So that's one reason. So the way I would structure my organization is, again, when you have partners, I would not keep them as a separate team. Instead, I would actually commingle them and create cross-functional teams, which has team members from partners, from internal company, and bring them all together to work like a seamless team, right? The goal is the outcome or what the end game is. And what happens is, if, again, I'm a believer in processes, but not over-index on processes, right? So it's progress over perfection. So we need to make sure that you are able to create a good partner ecosystem with a strong internal team, and then commingle the teams together so they don't feel like two separate cultures are building, right? So that's how I would structure that. And that's worked over and over again, especially for growth stage mid-market companies. That has specifically worked well. And then you can scale up, scale down, and manage your capacity to your business needs.
what does the governance or control model look like, right? Like, how do you put in guardrails such that, as you said, you have a strong internal team,
Yeah.
but you keep it hybrid enough that you work really, really well, really smoothly, very collaboratively with external partners?
Right. So there's 2 or 3 lenses that you can look through, right? One is who manages and provides direction to the team. Typically, you would take co-responsibility between an internal leader and a fractional a partner's leader, bring them together, hold them co-accountable, right? Instead of making one person accountable, you have to make it, and then this is a very overused term, which is a 2-in-a-box model, is what I like for the leadership structure. When the teams get together, you put them into small teams or 2-pizza teams that work really well and make sure they're half and half, right? That's one. And then in terms of your processes, I would, there's no great process that you can just pick and use. You have to evolve the process, your SDLC processes and how you govern your releases and all of that to how your company operates. So you should make sure that that process is documented and it is embedded in the overall organization, right? There's always this pull that happens, right? Some people come from other organizations and say, I did this in the past, so it must be right. Partners will come in and say, these are industry best practices, so use this, right? You have to weigh all of that and see what works for your company. There is, till date, I have not seen a model that works for everyone. So if the easiest example I can give you is if you look at Agile, it was supposed to be a cultural construct that allows people to think differently instead of, these little constructs that said, hey, collaboration over documentation, progress over perfection. These
Agile manifesto.
Yeah, it was a very simple concept,
Yeah.
but that Agile manifesto was written by people who had 20, 30 years of experience, and their roles are not as divided as they are today. Today, they are so fragmented, starting with, you have to start with, I need a product owner. That product owner figures what I need, right? And then it goes to the UX designer. The UX designer, unless that person understands the context of the thing, most UX designers are all I create pretty things people, not create usable things. That goes to the engineers, and then engineers are now split into front-end engineers, back-end engineers, DevOps engineers. I mean, it's fragmented a lot. But what happens is bringing all those very disparate roles together to create a product has become harder and harder and harder. But, when Agile was put together, that was put together by engineers who did all of these in one role. When I was writing code before, I was full stack. I used to design the system, architect the platform, design the infrastructure, write the code, deploy it all together. It wasn't spread out to this level, right? So Agile just doesn't work for a team. And then it ended up becoming a big, massive process. If you've seen the recent videos that people posted about SAFe framework, I mean, there's every other team out there, and the developers are 4 little boxes on the left in that complicated canvas. You should see it if you've not seen it. But that's the truth. It works great for corporations. They thought that's one size fits all. It's going to work like magic for me. And then, obviously now you put tools on top of it, right? And then now you wrestle with the tools of, trying to figure out how do I do sprints? How do I do release management? And then you have different, people come in and say, I like this tool better, that tool better, and the process falls apart. So it's a complicated process. So the principles or tenets that you use is figure out what works for you up front. Keep it as simple as you can. Do not let the tool drive what you do, right? And if just a simple spreadsheet works for you, just use it, right? And I wouldn't put anything. So it's a structure of how you grow with it. So if you're in a growth stage company, you should have figured all of that out. And especially when you have partners and other people coming in, especially new talent coming in, they will always come with certain things. So I tell all of my customers that when you bring a new team member in, one of their key mandates is to unlearn what they learned so far and come in and learn what fits in this organization and work like that. So it's a process. You have to go through a process. You cannot force it. And then you have to make sure you're disciplined to keep that consistency. So I believe consistency, it matters a lot more than trying to do cool things. So, yep.
I love that. And I think context matters a lot.
Yeah.
especially if you're coming in, which is why I want to seg into scoping and discovery. If you're coming in as an external, consultancy and partner, how do you figure out, what outcomes to solve for, becoming the best possible partner to your partner CTO and things like that? What's your take on that?
So we've made, so what we do today is when we engage with a client, we spend anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks of our time on our dime learning about the customer first, right? That's something that we learned. We never used to do it before. We used to jump head first, go in and say, yep, we can do everything. And we start, and it didn't end up too well because we had issues with our team. We had to switch our team members, and then the relearning starts again. So what we did is we have a playbook that says, it starts with, tell me how you onboard an employee, right? How do you onboard a team member on your team? So we start with that, spend 4 to 8 weeks of our own time to learn deeply about the customer. And then we start, once we understand the context and we put ourselves in the user's shoes, we try to play the product owner role, we try to play the engineer's role, understand the release management process, understand, what security and compliance needs to be done, understand the industry well. So we do all of that first. Then we go through a diligent discovery process to make sure we know what the requirements are, validate it with our stakeholders, and then we do if we have the time, we end up doing a proof of concept, which does a full cycle proof of concept it can be a small mini project to do from end to end. And then we learn from that. And then we do a retrospective and then iterate and iterate. So typically in about 4 to 8 weeks, our team is fully embedded and operate as if they were internal team members. And so the idea of scoping and discovery and making sure that we are doing the right thing starts with understanding the context and, sort of playing the role and shadowing some of the key people in the client's team. So that's what worked for us. When we never did those things and we just put a head in there and said, okay, here's a person, X dollars an hour, that didn't work well at all. That person probably took 3 months, 4 months, couldn't get started, and then they just, left or retreated, and then the whole process starts again. So
it's all about that. Like you said, we put this person at an hourly rate, and I don't think you believe in that anymore. Like you believe in like a monthly pricing model instead. Like what made you change your mind?
That's exactly. So it becomes, we don't like to be transactional, right? So when you go to a client and you say, hey, whether you give me work or I do anything or don't do anything, you owe me, how many dollars per hour, and then you get a timesheet. I can just be warming the bench. I can be doing busy work. I can just be doing paper pushing, and you still pay me, right? That's not value, especially in mid-market and growth stage. They're trying to get product out. They're trying to get outcomes. They need to show progress, right? So that old world of selling your time for money is not a very useful construct in this model, especially given some of these developer skills and all of these things are slowly getting commoditized, right? So whenever you find a partner that says, I will give you somebody for $40 an hour, there's 70 other people who show up and say, I'll give you somebody for $6 an hour. So
it's a race to the bottom.
Yeah, it's a race to the bottom. And if you look at who gives the best outcomes, again, in the end, talking about meaningful tech, right? In the end, if you're not able to achieve the outcomes you want, then it doesn't matter, right? So what we did is we said we have to remove that friction and barrier of having to be treated like a customer or like a consultant. And we said most companies, or pretty much all companies, pay their employees every 15 days or every month. That's the payroll. We should just fit right into that process, right? So that it doesn't look like, there's this other company that's paid more. So we try to balance our rates to fit the client's salary structure, and then we keep this monthly model so it's very predictable for them so that it doesn't change everything. And then if team members have to put in more time, less time, doesn't matter, but it's a fixed, we fix the rate at the monthly level, right? Now we are actually piloting another model where it doesn't matter. We sign up for real outcomes. We say, okay, we will do, X story points or this release, or we'll do these features. And after we release it, within that certain period of time, you pay us, which is true outcome-based pricing. Now, if we don't meet the outcomes, then every day, for example, one of the contracts we wrote was every day we miss the release, we will take a 1% penalty every day we miss the release. That's a guarantee. These days, nobody gives you those guarantees. If we do it earlier, you give us a 1% bonus. So there's incentive on both sides to drive things forward, right? So we are experimenting with interesting pricing models simply given the amount of disruption that's going on in this space, right? There used to be, hundreds of thousands of back-end engineer positions, front-end engineer positions, people trying to hire teams to do that. Now, in the last 1 year, everything, there's a lot of, analysis paralysis and, decision fatigue. They can't really figure out if that's the architecture they want to go, what GenAI is going to do to them. It's a fair amount of disruption in the market. So these kind of innovative, outcome-based, predictable models seem to work better for the market segment that we work with.
I love that you're innovating around, making sure the incentives make sense.
Yeah.
And it's a win-win for you as an owner of a consultancy and the client.
That's right.
And the teams that they work with. How do you define what an outcome is, right? Is it just, implementing the thing?
Yeah.
Like making the board happy? Like what does that look like?
So in the end, our outcome is, it's interesting you asked that question. So for us, how does what we do drive revenue and income for the client? That's our outcome, right? There's several other things that happen that drive to that. Now, if our clients don't make money, obviously they can't pay us. So our outcome is to make sure that our client makes money. So we do everything we can to drive towards that outcome. So anything the client asks us to do, if we have insights into certain things, saying, this is not the right thing to do at this point, you should do something else. And we have insights, we usually share those insights and tell them, I would not do this, right? Because we have that monthly outcome-based model, we can say that without putting our revenue at risk. We can say that, and then we can almost guarantee saying, if you do these 4 things, you'll have a better outcome and better, user acceptance and faster releases, better, time to market. All of these metrics, time to revenue is even more important. That's our outcome, right? And so we work backwards from that to see, okay, so the classic framework we use is, let's say we have every month you have to do a release with X amount of potential revenue goals. You work backwards and say, okay, we do it in 2 sprints, 4 sprints, how many hour sprints you do. And then you work backwards and say, every day, how do I get to that? And then you should make decisions every day, every week, just to make sure that you're still hitting those other milestones and get through barriers. So, that's, again, we have to keep iterating as much as we can. So,
how do you keep your clients happy? Or how do you keep them on retainer?
So we're happy to report that over our typical customer lifetime is about 4.5 years.
Wow.
Right.
That's
and yeah, and they typically, and that's been our history. And the reason is because we provide the value, right? So we work with a very straightforward set of core values, right? Our core values start with outcomes. We've been in situations where the client has not, did not get the expected result because of decisions they made. But we said, okay, we're not going to charge you for that, right? Even though it was a client's poor decision making on the client side, board's mistake. So outcomes is big. We are big on outcomes, right? We are big on transparency, which means, if our team members have to report every 2 hours what they did, so there's enough communication about things that are going right, things that are going wrong. So we don't hide anything. So every one of our team members, transparency is at the core of how we operate, right? Then the 2 additional tenets that we train and we really measure our team members on is accountability and ownership, right? They're 2 different things, and we want our team members to take ownership, just like how we take ownership, right? The thing that I tell all my clients is, you can sign the SOW and the MSA and all this fancy stuff. That's not for us. That's for the lawyers, right? If I need an MSA and a contract to keep you as my client, I'm not doing something right. That's not how I want to keep you as my client. I want to keep you as my client simply because you directly see value and impact your business. right? If that means telling the client that, this developer is not working out well, so I will replace this with another person and retrain the new developer at my cost, right? If we have to point out on the client side saying they're making poor decisions, we will point that out. So we will not shy away from those kinds of things. And then that's the confidence we build with our clients, right? So and our team members are evaluated weekly. So most companies evaluate quarterly or annual, right? But instead so we have a weekly review process that says, show me how you executed these 5 core values. And if you didn't, we course correct immediately. So and we share those results of our internal team reviews every Monday back to our clients.
Oh.
Saying this is our internal team. A lot of our clients use the same model now to give that feedback. So yeah, and then that's sort of how we try and keep, it's essentially building trust and partnership so that we can stay with them, right? And we provide value. They see value in what they do, because here's the other thing that I tell most of my team members. When a client is signing the check for you, they should not think for a second why they're signing that. They should exactly know what you did, which is why transparency is so important. So if we are able to exhibit all of our core values that we've set ourselves up for, then I think that's why clients keep coming back to us. So.
I love it. Transparency, outcomes, and being accountable or taking ownership, and baking in the processes that reinforce those values, and designing in the incentives.
That's right.
For both sides.
Yeah, we have both incentives and disincentives, right? So if people don't exhibit value, if their quality is poor for 2 continuous weeks, then we literally make a change right then and there. So it's that reaction time that matters. I mean, you can't let things simmer for too long. So, yep.
We're approaching the end, but I just wanted to ask you more interesting questions. So, Anand, you've been, former CTO. You're one of our amazing hive leads on Swarm. Like, what motivates you?
Interesting. There's too many things that motivate me, but so I just like, for me, this is not work, right? This is what I want to do. This is what I like to do. Partly because, like my wife or kids say, you don't know anything else, so what else would you do? Maybe the reason, but then this is why I wake up, right? And then what happens is the work that we do is, when I see it creating value and a change, and it changes people's lives and everything, I'll give you every one of our clients has a story, right? They look like a software product, but it's not. So I'll tell you, this is what I like to tell everyone. One of our clients transports, people to medical facilities. Now, what do you do? Oh, I have this platform that connects, people make reservations, we get them a ride, and then they take them to the facility, we bring them back. It's mundane stuff. That's not what we are doing. At the core of it, we are making sure people get their life-sustaining treatment on time just because we do the platform right? That's exciting work. People, for example, on the unbanked segment don't know how to keep their money, and if they have to use credit cards. So we help our client, one of our other clients, allow their products to be accessible by the unbanked segment, right? They can get their payroll loaded on their card. We are making money accessible to people, right? Although we are saying, I'm building an app. I mean, the app is just the end result, which is why that meaningful technology is so important. And I believe in all these constructs that say, no software is the best kind of software. If I don't have to put software, I would not put any software at all, right? So some of these constructs really, when you see the impact of the work you do at the end, that's what excites us. And that's what our entire team knows, how to connect those dots. A lot of people today work without understanding what their end result is. So some people say, what did you do today? Well, I built this farm and I created this amazing looking UX design, and it's great. But then nobody can connect that to the end user who's actually doing, and how their lives are getting impacted. So technology has amazing impact on people's lives, which I've seen growing up, from my childhood. And I see a lot of these inconsequential technologies, right? And I get a lot of bad rap for saying this, like companies like Google, Apple, all of these are, they stuck themselves in the middle of everybody's lives, but they're completely inconsequential. If Google vaporizes from this earth today, human beings will not miss a thing. Think about it, right? they have wedged themselves in the middle of the ecosystem. Yeah, they give you amazing, they make your life easy and all of that good stuff. But then consequentially, there's no real consequence. You have to invent why they exist, right? They say, I organize the world's information. Great. But did anyone ask you to organize it? Right? You just took it on, right? So if you look at the other areas, lots of tech companies do it with a very economic bent of mind. It's so for us, it's all about being a lot more altruistic with technology, right? And so that's what wakes me up. That's what I do. I don't think I'll do anything different. So,
how does that influence how you choose or fire your clients, right? Like the opportunity for meaning and altruism.
Most clients, especially, we've been lucky enough to have majority of our clients do meaningful work. Of course, everybody wants economic benefit, economic value. I'm not a hypocrite. I want to make money too. But making it the right way is one thing that we believe in. But several of our clients, several of our clients who we fired or let go are those clients who don't appreciate what needs to get done to achieve their goals. So if they don't treat their employees well, they don't treat us well, in general, they don't treat their customers well, right? And whenever we see those kinds of things, we pull back, even though it's a big contract. We call them graveyard clients, dirty money clients, right? They're great. They cut you a check. They're making lots and lots of money, and then you send them a big invoice. It gets paid, but then people are sweating blood and trying to, every day they wake up in the morning. I'm like, man, I got to go back. When's my weekend? So whenever a team member is looking forward to a weekend, I know there's something wrong with the customer, right? So yeah, I mean, it's a choice you make, right? Just like every other choice you make in life, but it sounds very philosophical and preachy, but it's actually true. So in the end, what do you want? You just need to be able to do what you want. And if you have to bend backwards and try to do things that you don't enjoy, yeah, you'll do it for some time. After that, you'll be done. So
we'll keep that in mind. For all the CTOs, consultants, technologists listening to you right now, what's your best piece of advice for them?
So I'll have to think about this, but there's lots of things I have to say, right? So if your technology can create meaningful impact, that's something that you have to work on, right? I'm not a big believer. So I'm not a big believer in vanity tech, right? So if you find a good reason and a purpose as to why you're doing what you're doing, that's what you should look to find every single time. If you just follow what other people ask you to do, it looks very myopic and what's right in front of you. Look beyond how much impact your work is causing, right? I spoke to a interesting person 2 months ago who works on, the reason it was interesting is because my co-founder used to do load balancing software for airlines. So every time a plane's ready to take off, they have to figure out how to balance the load. And that's what he used to do. And I met this lady who's a load balancing architect for cargo flights for UPS. And I was like, interesting. So we got talking, right? The way she talks about her job is, hey, the work that I do directly impacts whether the airplane stays in air or not, right? It's very impactful work. So if you're able to connect those dots to those types of impacts you make, I would advise as a technologist, look for that, stay away from vanity tech or the next cool thing, right? The other philosophy is do boring things really well. You don't have to find the next shiny thing. There's enough businesses out there and technology out there that you don't quite need. So don't make your life complicated.
What's an example of a boring technology or fundamentals that you can be really good at?
Not boring technology, right? I'll give you simple things like notifications are a pain in the butt. Which designer thought that they should keep dinging your phone every 2 seconds? And then give you a setting in the phone to go and turn it off, and it's a complex piece of thing to turn it off, right? Why? Right? So, similarly, if they said, we are responsible people, so we'll let you set up screen time. Have any of you all tried setting up screen time? It's ridiculous, right? So I don't know if that answers your question, but all I'm trying to say is there is a reason why there's technology cycles that get more and more complicated and complicated and complicated, simply because that's how they show value. But it makes everybody else's life even more complicated because that's how, right? Like this ever connected environment, I can call and ping anybody at any time. Well, it need not be that, right? But whenever you try to call an ambulance, traffic's in the way. What did your phone do? It didn't do anything for you, right? So I don't know if it answers your question, but those kinds of things that people don't think through is my problem. So now flip phones are becoming popular now. I don't know if you'll have seen it, right? So we were talking about this, right? So right now there's not going to be like 700 fields on a screen that people have to fill out. Have you seen it? Have you seen an EHR system? Have you seen an electronic health system? Right? It literally has 380 fields on a screen, and people typically use 22 of them.
Oh, like EMRs.
EMRs?
Yeah.
Have you seen that? Right?
I've worked on
and then doctors spend less time with patients and more time filling out notes in the EMR.
Because if I don't ask this, like the viewers will get mad. What's your view on AI and the future we're heading towards with AI?
This may sound like I'm trivializing AI, but for me, AI, the current version of AI, does make a difference in how you look at systems and how you use technology effectively, right? It has taken us one step closer to be able to do the work better. On the flip side, the work is not getting done better with current tools. It's not because for lack of tools. It's simply because, this is my favorite quote, right? Which is, a fool with a tool is still a fool. So you give AI in the hands of a fool, it's still going to be subpar. So people who know and figure out how to use AI will definitely benefit from it. Internally at Thinkbridge, we have several projects that are making a significant difference in how fast the developers write code, how fast we produce deliverables for our client. It's definitely it's an evolution of tech. It's a lot more fast and rapid, and the mindset you need is significantly different, right? So for me, it's the next step in what you're trying to achieve. Again, if you don't keep the outcome in mind and just say, I need to use AI, and you force fit it in, you are not going to get the outcomes, right? Like I said, customer support sucks today, not because the customer support tools are bad. It's because the tools are being used incorrectly. People are being trained improperly. It's not the customer technology. So it's been around for 20 years, right? What is new? So AI will show up. AI will give you more sets of capabilities. When you know how to use it for the purpose it is good at, I think it will make a big, massive impact. It will dramatically speed up decision making for people. And the cool thing that AI is doing right now, especially Gen AI, right? Not the other types of AI, generative AI, is simply dramatically reducing the information asymmetry that exists, which is how opportunities come to people. Just because I had access to that floppy drive when nobody knew what that floppy disk was, got me into this whole thing. Bill Gates got access to this University of Washington computers. The opportunity just happened. It's not like, by choice, they say nobody went looking for it. So even in AI, the thing that's going to happen is all of us in this room and everybody on the street out there have access to the same exact information, same exact, quality of information that you have.
ChatGPT 01 as of now, as of recording.
No, that'll keep changing, right? See, there are some undertones of why they're releasing that product, right? ChatGPT 4.0 used to take 2 seconds to answer. Now it takes 50 seconds to answer, and they claim it thinks. No, it doesn't, right? It's a text generation engine. It just allows, processes text really fast. And that's why I'm saying the information asymmetry is going to get completely diminished, which means everybody will have such equal level of opportunity. So the people who piggyback off of that and use that opportunity to get the outcomes is who will thrive, right? So yeah, there'll be AI today. There'll be BICI, something else later. Who knows? Augmented intelligence, human plus intelligence. I don't know. So, like I said, technology is only meaningful when it does create positive impact in people's lives. So if it keeps sticking itself in the middle of everybody's lives, then that's not for me. So,
all right. Thank you, Anand Krishnan. Focus on meaning and outcomes. Thank
That's
you so
right.
much.
Thank you. Right.